lesson 4 in the Indoc series. My name is Matt, and I'm the founder and the lead instructor here of the Special Operations Training Foundation. This lesson, I'm going to teach you about the big 3 deficiencies that candidates tend to get into trouble with when they fail out of their career pipeline. And those are psychology, physiology, and critical skills. So in other words, I've written underneath, the brain, the body, and the business skills might be a little bit easier to remember. Let's talk about psychology real quick. A lot of these programs, like I said, tend to lack curriculum. So things that are maybe not as obvious tend to not be addressed as well because the things that are obvious take the focus of the training. And psychology is definitely one of those. If anything, psychology is developed mostly using a passively developed concept. In other words, programs are created like the experience camp or the mentoring that have somewhat of a what's called the suck factor. That basically means how much the activity really sucks. And this does passively develop some of the psychology necessary for success, but it kind of turns things more into a selection process than a training. Here's what I mean by that. If you throw enough of a suck factor into any event, all you're going to have is people that fail the event who didn't have what it takes to deal with the suck factor, and then people who complete the event who did have what it takes. That is nothing more than a selection process. Trust me, I've studied selection and training for a decade. What we want is a training process where if you don't have what's necessary to compete with that suck factor, you develop what is necessary. That does not always happen when you just throw it at someone passively. So we are going to avoid doing this, and we're going to work on developing the psychology that you need in order to pass, in order to deal with that suck factor, but in a curriculum sort of way, not just in a passive way. Let's talk about physiology. Physiology, just like psychology, is another major area of development, except it's very obvious. In special operations careers, people tend to understand that you're going to need to use your body to its potential much more than you would in another career. And so the body tends to be the most common focus. It actually gets the opposite of the psychology treatment. It gets everybody's attention. And so everybody's busy doing PT and exercising and doing what they think they need to do, but without the proper psychology, all the preparation here is worthless. But let's talk about the problems with the body preparation to begin with. The biggest problem is that entire sections of it are ignored. Because it gets so much focus, it actually gets so much focus only in certain areas. For instance, the exercising part, the bodybuilding, and the capability as far as athleticism is a very common focus. So people know to work on that. But they ignore entire sections of physiology and other things that have to do with your body, such as fueling it properly, nutrition for instance, and recovery. And fueling and recovery both have such dramatic effects on the actual work that you're doing in the gym that it's almost completely ridiculous to leave those out. But it happens all the time. Let's move on to critical skills. Critical skills are what we call the business skills of special operations careers. There are common critical skills that almost every career in special operations, as we define it, is going to use, and those are mostly social in nature. So when I say social skills here, what I'm talking about is leadership, teamwork, and so on. A lot of these special operations careers, if not all of them, have certain ideas that are common threads that run through them. And a lot of time that's going to be teamwork is very essential, and the leadership of these organizations is second to none. So leadership and teamwork are common skills that you're going to see no matter what special operations career you're trying to get into, and you're going to have to build those and become good at those if you want to achieve the most success you can. Then there are some different business skills that are very career specific. For instance, you may have some skills like swimming or diving, or something that is maybe a technical specialty that you're only going to have to learn if your career deals with that kind of thing. And obviously, you are going to learn that stuff in pipeline when the training is provided to you by whoever is hiring you or whoever you're working for. And we're not interested in replacing that training, but we do want to cover those skills up front. And the reason we want to cover some of those skills is because 2 things. First, they tend to be very technical in nature. And so for people that don't grasp technical specialties very quickly, you can kind of get compressed to the point where you're playing catch up in pipeline. You don't want to do that. So we want to expose you to that stuff ahead of time so that you become more comfortable with it. Whether it's marksmanship, using weapons, using dive equipment, anything like that where it's a little bit more of a technical specialty. We want to get you pre-exposed to it so you can be very familiar with it when you see it again later on. The second reason is there's a lot of things that you may do, especially in the technical specialties, that are fear-inducing. So for some people, for example, they have a big fear of water training. Now, if you need to learn how to swim, that is a critical career skill. However, the fears of water training can kind of take over in pipeline and cause you unnecessary stress that you're not prepared to deal with. So we're going to combine psychology and the ability to deal with that stress with teaching you and acclimating you to the performance of swimming or water training or whatever it is that would be fear developing, and kind of get you over that. You're not going to have the fear to begin with, and if you do have any additional stress, you'll be able to deal with that with the psychology that we teach you. So it's all one big package. These are the 3 common deficiencies, and it is the main structure of our curriculum to deal with these 3 deficiencies. In fact, we're going to talk about later on in the index series, we're going to talk about different types of attrition, which in other words is people that do not complete pipeline, and how it relates to these 3 deficiencies, because you're going to see them come up time and time again. It's either one of them that's really bad or it's a combination of them in certain circumstances, but it's always one of these 3 that tends to be a very serious issue. And so we cover these serious issues extensively again and again throughout our curriculum. The next lesson is going to be about what we call building a pyramid. And again, you can contact us by using the comment system, stopping by the website at sotfoundation.org, which I encourage you to visit anyway. Definitely make sure you thumbs up or like this and subscribe to this channel so that you'll get all the rest of our content. And I'll see you in the next one.